borrowed this shirt from my girlfriend, and it is shockingly relevant because today we're going to talk about an unexpected remake that I never really got any notice was coming out. We're here to talk about David Gordon Green's remake of Christine. Huh? We're talking about Halloween Ends? Isn't that the same thing?
You came here to kill me, so do it.
Halloween Ends is the final installment in this newest trilogy, reboot, requel, remake, sequel, Halloween trilogy, picking up 4 years after the last film left off, where Michael Myers murdered Laurie Strode's daughter and then disappeared after going on a violent killing spree on Halloween night 2018. Halloween Ends picks up 4 years later, and, tells the story of kind of nothing to do with Michael Myers. It really tells the story of Laurie and Allison coming to terms with all of that they survived, alongside a story about a young man named Corey Cunningham who had a run of shit luck the year after Michael's killing spree, and a certain incident on Halloween 2019 that left him branded something of a town pariah and left him pretty emotionally damaged. Where does Michael Myers fit onto all that, you might be asking? He doesn't. And here's the thing about Halloween Ends. Halloween Ends is a film that pretty widely was trashed by critics and fans alike. No one really liked this movie except for, after it came out, there were people who jumped to its defense. I'm kind of one of those people, which is really bizarre considering how I felt about Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. And having seen all three now, my entire thoughts on this trilogy have changed. But I'll start by saying this. I liked Halloween Ends. I did. I genuinely did. But it does not work as the concluding chapter of a trilogy by any means. And the fact that its themes pair so well with Halloween 2018, while completely negating the entire point of Halloween Kills, I'm starting to think that this franchise, this trilogy, shouldn't have been a trilogy. It should have been Halloween 2018 and Halloween Ends. Halloween Kills has no place anywhere in this mix. Halloween Ends takes us back to the themes of Halloween 2018. The idea of Laurie having given up so much of her life in fear of this lunatic coming back after her, and how everyone is looking for some sort of meaning in the madness. Everyone is looking for some kind of answer as to why Michael is like this. And is he really evil? Is he just a crazy guy who everyone attached an idea of evil to? These are interesting ideas, and Kills put forth this notion that Michael's evil is almost like a virus, like it permeates outward and affects everything, and Haddonfield has been irreparably changed by the presence of that evil. This movie analyzes those themes and explores that concept a million times better through Corey, of all things, who, as a character, is kind of really interesting and a really well written and acted role. And Rowan Campbell is carrying this damn movie on his back. His performance is really the selling point of this movie, outside of Jamie Lee Curtis doing her damnedest to finalize Laurie Strode's last outing. Rowan Campbell is the star of this movie. He really does so much, and Corey as a character has to go through a lot and carry this strange balance of innocent and psychopath. The notion of seeing that dichotomy and seeing how he plays that slow shift as he's influenced by Michael's evil, it's a really interesting idea for a film. And it's fascinating to me in that this is not what anyone expected it to be. And like I said, this shouldn't have been a trilogy. I don't think this was originally meant to be a trilogy. But the way that this movie responds to its previous films and the way that it explores themes that were touched on in its previous films, it's handled so much more interestingly here. And yes, it is not really a Halloween film. Like, it doesn't feel like one. Michael is barely here. But in a way, this movie almost echoes Season of the Witch in that way, where you get the third installment and everyone's expecting it to be one thing, and then it's something completely different, and a bunch of people hate it, but a bunch of people see the value in it, all because Michael isn't in it. I don't know if this was an intentional choice by David Gordon Green, but it is a bold one, I can say that if nothing else. And I kind of love it. I kind of love the idea of this movie. It's by no means perfect, and in fact it's pretty flawed, and I'll get to that in a minute, but the things it's doing right, it's doing really right. right. Jamie Lee Curtis is bringing her all here, and the few scenes we get of Laurie and Michael, particularly in the final 15 to 20 minutes, are fantastic. The final battle that's hyped up in all the trailers that is really not focused on in the movie all that much is excellent. It really hammers home all that these two characters have been through with each other, and it really feels very weighty to see them both just brawling in the most brutal fashion. It makes for a really cool ending, and Jamie Lee Curtis, in addition to sheer badassery, is doing some really cool stuff with Laurie's character here, and there are several moments where she's able to let her guard down and able to be vulnerable, and she's playing it the way that she was playing Laurie at 17. She's playing this character as though she's shifting back into those years that she never got to experience because she's finally, in a place of safety and security, and it's really endearing and sweet and a super interesting character choice to watch. Separately, we've got Andi Matichak, once again, as Alison Strode, who, her arc here is weird because her entire character arc in this movie is centered around Corey and their relationship, and it's like Corey has just shown up for the first time in this movie. And there's no reason to have rushed his story in one movie, because you could have addressed all of these things over the span of this entire trilogy. You could have made him Allison's boyfriend from the beginning, but the fact that he wasn't, and the fact that her actual boyfriend just dies thanklessly in the second movie with no impact really, after being left alive in the first movie despite being a douchebag, it just feels really out of place, and there's no reason that Corey couldn't have subbed in for those roles. And that's really where the flaws of this movie come through, is that in a vacuum, it works. This movie works on its own. But as the final Halloween movie and the final chapter of a Halloween trilogy that has been centered on the Strode women, it is an odd choice to have them go this direction in the finale. And it doesn't really feel like a finale as a result, outside of the last 15 minutes. And I don't particularly love that aspect of it. I think that had this trilogy committed to one or the other, had it committed to either telling the ending of Laurie and Michael's story and then moving on to something else, that would have been awesome. If it had combined elements of Halloween Kills into Halloween Ends, or vice versa, that would have been awesome. And if it had completely scrapped Halloween Kills entirely because it does not fit in this trilogy, that would have been the best case scenario, because 2018 and Ends pair very well together. And you can very easily watch Halloween Ends right after 2018 and really not miss much. The only thing that really happens of import are a bunch of townies getting murdered. And like I said in my Halloween Kills review, Halloween Kills just feels like an extended cut of Halloween 2018. There's subplots in there that don't fit anywhere, and they don't really belong, and they're really just goofy and out of place. And I honestly feel like if you combined all three of these movies into like a fan edit, you could get something really, really special out of it. There's some really cool stuff in this movie, and I can see in my head how it would all fit together better than it's delivered in this trilogy. This is not a Halloween movie, but it is a remake of Christine, kind of. You've got Corey, who is relentlessly bullied and picked on and has a shitty home life, and is quite similar to Artie in Christine. Additionally, you've got Michael Myers taking the role of Christine in Corey discovering Michael and becoming influenced by his evil, if you will, and like learning to embrace his dark side by watching Myers do his thing. It's an interesting concept, and the fact that they emulate entire story beats from Christine, in addition to having him literally say to Michael at one point, "Show me." It's like, it's a bizarre homage, and it can't be unintentional because it is literally quoting the film at that point, and I don't understand why this was the idea, because like everything here is interesting, but the notion of taking Michael Myers and crafting him into this sort of mentor figure for a character who we've never met is strange, and Corey's arc through that whole process is very interesting, but for Michael it makes no sense. And like I said, it makes this movie end up feeling like a remake of Christine more than a Halloween film, where Michael doesn't have any agency. He is basically the car. He's basically a supernatural monster that is stumbled upon by the wrong person who has had a run of bad luck, and that person falls under his influence. I don't really buy that Michael wouldn't just murder him right off the bat, but for what this movie is doing, and for what it is trying to do, and for how it is analyzing the notions of trauma, and of how we view evil, and how evil is really just a means of control through fear. It's exploring a lot of these concepts very interestingly, and it's responding to some questions posed in Halloween 2018 very interestingly. But the problem is, there's an entire movie in the middle there that does not fit with any of these themes. Because in the last movie, Michael was a supernatural juggernaut, and there was no longer a question of whether or not he was supernatural, because there was no human way he could have survived any of that. It's like 78 straddles the line. It makes it so that you can't quite tell if Michael is supernatural or just human and very durable. Kills goes so far over that line that it paints Michael as purely supernatural, and it doesn't work. And now Ends comes back, and Michael is suddenly not supernatural anymore, and he's just like living in the sewers eating rats, but then him murdering somebody makes him literally physically like tremble and shake as though he's being filled with evil again. It's a bunch of strange choices. And like I said, in a vacuum it works, but to finish off a trilogy, it really does not. And I don't quite know if I can call this movie a good Halloween movie, but I did like it as a movie, and I do think it's putting out some fantastic, interesting ideas. I just wish that it had done it in a different fashion, or done it without the extraneous middle film. That's kind of it. Let me know what you thought of Halloween Ends down in the comments. Let me know what you thought of this trilogy overall. I'm very curious to hear if Halloween Ends worked for y'all, if you're among the many people who did not like it. Sound off below. Let me know what you thought. I'm very curious to hear other people's opinions on this movie, because it is a very polarizing film, and it's definitely not going to work for everybody, but for the people who it does work for, very curious to hear why. So please sound off below, and as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Click the thing down there, like, comment, subscribe. I've got some fun stuff coming up. Can't wait to tell you about it, and I will talk to you all very soon.